conflict is a clash of interest or disagreement or argument, prolonged struggle and oppositions, involves two or more people clashing over a common thing. For it could be resources, basic needs, values. So we see conflict in disagreements or clash of interest in many different aspects. And today, particularly, we'll be focusing on human and wildlife conflict. And this is when the needs and behavior of wildlife impact negatively on humans, or when the needs and behavior of humans impact negatively on wildlife. So there's competition for resources, living space, food, water, and this may arise when like wildlife damage crops, threaten, kill, or injure people or domestic animals. And then usually when these conflicts arise, animals are usually killed in retaliation to prevent future conflicts. So examples, we have baboons in Namibia attacking young cattle, or greater one-horned rhinos in Nepal destroying crops, to orangutans in palm oil plantations, to European bears and wolves killing livestock. So this is a global issue, and which compromises, for example, the livelihoods of small farmers who often are desperately poor and already economically and are already like economically in difficult economic challenges, and they're forced to encroach in elephants or other wildlife habitat, which increases the negative interactions with wildlife. So you can really see the impacts of also the short social and human welfare impacts of this, especially for poor farmers who might lose their entire livelihood overnight from just an elephant raid. So people are also injured. In India, over 100 people are killed by elephants each year, and over 200 people have been killed in Kenya over the last 7 years. So it is a very critical and challenging aspect in wildlife management. So elephants are, for example, like in Kenya, since elephants are often killed in retaliation also, and wildlife authorities in Kenya specifically shoot between 50 to 120 problem elephants in their title. Problem elephants each year, and dozens of elephants are poisoned each year in oil palm plantations in Indonesia. So you can see just from this brief introduction, you can see that there are so many ethical and welfare concerns that arise from these conflicts, as they undermine both human and animal welfare, health, safety, and have huge economic and social costs. So it is a very complex problem facing both humans and animals, and it's an urgent issue in wildlife management and conservation. So a key aspect for us today is to really focus on both the impacts on humans and wildlife. So coexistence. Coexistence, this is another word that you see in the title of our workshop today, which was human and wildlife conflicts towards coexistence. So when you say coexistence, what is coexistence really? What does it mean? So it means it's a sustainable state in which humans and wildlife co-adapt to living in shared landscapes. So this is an ideal space where we really look at the positive interactions between wildlife and humans, because they are vital and we benefit the ecosystem. It is important, both humans and wildlife and animals are important to the ecosystem. So it's really focusing on the positive interactions that we get when we are able to live together. And the aim towards like coexistence strategies is to reduce or prevent conflicts for the well-being of both humans and wildlife. So the focus is on both humans and wildlife when we introduce coexistence. So we realized that one major cause of human and wildlife conflicts is increasing human population adjacent to wildlife habitats, which leads to habitat loss and wildlife moving into even urban settings. So as population increase, there is increasing an encroachment into wildlife spaces, and wildlife loss of habitats, increased interaction with interactions with wildlife, also increasing interactions in frequency of conflicts. So this is like an interconnected problem, and so many aspects are affecting each other. So conflicts are arising due to agricultural expansion, human settlement. When we say agricultural expansion, for example, clearing land for sugarcane or corn plantation, or to keep livestock, or for grazing lands for livestock. There's also like deforestation, logging, and poaching. So various human activities are impacting animals. So today, I'll be focusing on, our case study is on aggressive human coyote encounters, and our case study will be focusing mainly on coyote attacks in Stanley Park. So Stanley Park is in Vancouver, BC. It's British Columbia. And there have been encounters of increased aggressive encounters with coyotes. So before moving forward, I'll just do a quick highlight that the discussion includes like sensitive, for some of you it might be a very sensitive topic with distressing things, including human attacks and injuries. So just a heads up for all of you to, if you need to mute or jump off the presentation. But we encourage you to be open to some of these challenging issues that are going on, because this is a current pressing issue within BC, and our goal is to facilitate respectful discussion and learning. And I am by no means an expert on this topic, and I'm always open to new ideas and new opinions, but I'm sharing here the space is for us to like share what's going on, and also like opinions from studies, various research, various media outlets, and sharing that opinions for you to come out of this learning something new, and hopefully will encourage you to learn more about this issue. So as I've mentioned earlier, in Stanley Park, there has been an increase in aggressive interactions with humans, which has resulted in injuries, hospitalizations, and increased fear, disruption in daily life activities. For example, park closures early in the morning and late in the evening are another example where this has affected human activities. Is the Vancouver triathlon run, which was going through Stanley Park, was cancelled due to the coyote attacks. There have been, as I mentioned, route closures, and there have been, as of now, there have been 45 confirmed coyote attacks in the park this year, according to conservation officers and the British Columbia Ministry of Environment and Climate Change Strategies senior public affairs officer told the news outlet. So some of the strategies that they have used to mitigate this include using soft foot hold traps to catch the coyotes, and also killing the coyotes. Culling is the lethal removal. So I'll be using the terms culling and killing interchangeably to kind of reduce the cases of attacks, and we'll delve deeper into the complexities of using some of these methods. So as you can see these are different headlines that I took from various news outlets. So there's been increased media coverage on this. Maybe some of you have seen these being talked about on the news or on social media. And there are mixed views in this, but I would also like to highlight that in media, there is also sentimentalism. So some of the headlines spark negative views towards coyotes, and it really doesn't give a comprehensive story of what is really going on the ground or the underlying reasons of these attacks. Yes, attacks are completely wrong. It's a serious case when humans are injured, but it becomes a problem when it becomes a humans against coyote case, and there are some, as you can see, like some mixed views. Some are like completely for the removal of coyotes, and some are also like against the culling of coyotes. We've seen like this, but there were like some vigils and petitions and rallies against the lethal removal. So there is different views towards this, and I would like to draw attention to the one of the articles, the BBC News article right on the bottom left, which says brazen coyotes terrorize British Columbia Park. So, for example, the use of the term terrorize gives a very negative and which leaves no room for consideration of the welfare of the animals, and it becomes their problem, their pest. Let's remove them, which is also very problematic. So we can really see in cases where there is a threat to human safety, provincial wildlife authorities will investigate, and where possible, the animal is located and removed. So human safety is usually prioritized over the welfare of individual wildlife. So there is some of the initiatives that they have is a 24-hour ministry telephone line, which people can call if they encounter dangerous wildlife. And public also report sightings and incidents to other agencies, for example, the Park Board, the Stanley Park Ecology Society, Vancouver or Richmond Health Board, and the Vancouver Police. So any report of serious nature received by any of these organizations is immediately forwarded to the ministry for action, and that action is usually lethal removal of the animal. So there is also like public awareness and education, and they believe that long-term approach with the greatest value is public education, increased awareness, and we will delve into some of these programs as we continue on with the presentation. For example, Coexisting with Coyotes program developed by Stanley Park Ecology Society, which looks at some of strategies to mitigate these conflicts. So we'll now look at brief facts about coyotes. So they arrived in Metro Vancouver in the 1930s and in the city of Vancouver in the 1980s. They are native to North America, and well before European settlements, coyotes were native only to deserts and grasslands of the Midwest United States. And following the increase in agriculture and urban development, combined with widespread destruction of wolves, a natural predator of coyotes, the coyotes spread to most parts of North America by the mid-20th century, and they have an incredible ability to adapt to human-managed areas. So they now inhabit almost any terrestrial environment in North America, and they primarily eat mice, squirrels, rabbits, and they'll take almost anything. They can eat almost anything, including like fish, fruit, berries, nuts, which really, this helps them to adapt to many environments. They are very social, and they usually live in family groups. When I say social, very social, I mean as in within the species, like they're within their family groups, they're very social. And They also play a vital role in ecosystems, particularly in managing populations of small mammals and rodents, and they help, particularly in Canada, they help in controlling Canada goose and white-tailed deer populations. So you can really see that they play a vital role and they help in maintaining health and integrity of the ecosystem's diversity. So a mated pair of coyotes stay together for life, and both the mother and father of a litter play a role in feeding and teaching the pups. And you can really see in this the tight social bonds that they have. So any lethal control that removes the mother or the father disrupts the family bonds, which is also like a welfare concern. So why is this happening? You might ask, like, why are the coyotes were here like since the 1980s? Why has there been this increase in attacks going on? So usually the main problem which has been identified by most researchers is how the coyotes have become food or human conditions. Usually they are wary of humans and they stay away from humans, but because of people feeding coyotes, whether intentionally or unintentionally, when I say intentionally or unintentionally, I mean like it could be like food given directly to them. For example, like they attract for some trying to capture really good photographs. They feed the coyotes, or unintentionally could be like food left out for ground squirrels. And there have been some evidence found of some people leaving bags of dog food, and that acts as a positive reinforcement, and coyotes become conditioned or habituated to humans, and from this they become accustomed and become more aggressive. So some encounters, because they might want food or because they are no longer afraid of humans, they can start attacking humans. So in urban areas, particularly, coyotes are increasingly losing their natural distrust and fear of humans, and individual animals become increasingly bold in the presence of humans. They learn very quickly and pass this information along to their offspring, and thus it is a growing problem in urban coyote populations throughout North America. Particularly, we can see especially the increasing cases of aggressive encounters in Stanley Park since December 2020. And food could also be from open trash cans, litter, and so food is a really big concern, which isn't concerned in the increase of coyote attacks. So some other things that contribute to this, for example, walking dogs not on a leash, which is particularly dangerous in the mating seasons, which is usually January or February, like early in the year. And coyotes are territorial, and dogs which may not be familiar with aggressive or they may assume that their coyotes are being playful, they end up being attacked. And lethal control is usually like the first call, like that wildlife authorities think of, especially when there is a risk in human safety. So culling, as I mentioned earlier, is killing, lethal removal of, they usually use the term culling, and it can be done in many different forms, whether it be shooting, trapping, poisoning. So it can be done in many different forms, but the aim is like removal of the targeted species. So lethal control is not a long-term solution, because over the years, culling continues, like every year, in North America, so many hundreds of coyotes are killed, and with the aim of like reducing this like aggressive encounters, but they continuously arise. So when we look at coyotes, they have strong compensatory responses. So they, when you remove a coyote from a certain environment, another coyote comes, like they migrate from other areas to fill that vacuum, because they would be like open habited food areas. So, and that also increases the chance for them to, they also have like larger litters, because there's reduced competition for food, and there's, as I mentioned, available unoccupied habitat. So, and there's also a risk in affecting like ecosystem resilience and biodiversity. As I mentioned, the coyotes are an apex predator in some environments, and they help controlling like small mammals and other rodents. So removing that coyotes may lead in like overpopulation of other species, which can lead to disruption of like other parts of the ecosystem. There's also an animal welfare and ethics concern, a huge animal, and one of the headlines that I saw mentions like coyotes as most persecuted predator in North America, and the USDA Wildlife Service kills more than 80,000 coyotes each year and others. These numbers include those killed for sport, fare, some like hunting sports and contests. So it's really a concern, because it's ignoring the root cause, as I mentioned before, which we will look at when we look at ways to coexist with these coyotes, and they are short-term relief. Conflict coexistence. So there are initiatives in the long term. Like, yes, I understand, and most understand when there is the risk of an aggressive coyote, there needs to be like immediate removal, especially if it's attacking humans. But we should also consider long-term solutions to ensure that these attacks don't continue, or prevent these attacks, which lead to there being the need of culling or removal or translocation of the coyotes. So some of the key things, as I mentioned, like food conditioning is a real problem. So never feed coyotes. Even if they're hungry looking, don't feed them. Make sure that you have, so some of the things like in the park, I think they're looking at installing wild-proof bins, and it's also like help even in our residential areas to making sure that you clean up litter. This could be with any other wildlife. For example, like in some communities that you may be in, there might be bears or monkeys or etc. So it is very important that we keep food away from wildlife and to prevent food conditioning. So covering up garbage bins, wild-proof bins, keeping compost secure, clean up fallen fruits or berries. If you remember, like coyotes eat almost anything. So removing dead stock from farms and ranches, and not leaving bed feeders to overflow, and just keeping food secure. And stop wildlife feeding, even if, especially like food to attract animals for photographs, and that would go a long way in stopping aggressive attacks in the future. Education is also key in learning more about coyotes, understanding them, and to help like the change in perception of just, if you look at coyote, there's this summary of narrative of them being a pest or a threat, and ignoring the service that they have to the ecosystem and the value that they have to maintaining that balance. So other Other things that you can do, like when you go on a walk in the park, or if you're in areas where there are coyotes, make sure you have your small children close by, and like your dogs on leashes, and making sure that they don't like run off and get into like territories, especially if there's like coyote protecting its cubs. You don't get like close by to them. Other things that you can do that have been done, that are educational signage against feeding wildlife, and there being also like laws and fines on that. Like if you feed wildlife in some areas, there are laws and enforcement against us. So these are some of the things that can be done. And we'll talk about hazing more in the, okay, we can talk about hazing right now. So hazing is when you encounter a coyote, you make yourself larger, because they're easily afraid. They usually stay away from humans, and they're wary of humans. So if you make yourself larger and shout, "Go away, coyote," waves your arms above your head. Yes, it might look, you might look, it's not usually normal for someone to do this, but then like for your safety and for the safety of for the coyote, if you do that, it goes a long way in keeping the coyote away. And it also depends on the distance. If it is like far away and it doesn't go away, it means like it's not really like, doesn't care about you. But like, let's say you're like close by it, that has been seen to be effective in making it like, making the coyote go away and not get close by or try to like interact with you. Some deterrent, non-invasive deterrent methods could be like shaking cans, walking, if you have a walking stick, throwing it toward where the coyote is, not directly at it, but just like throwing it at to just like scare them. So don't attack the coyote, like something to just like scare. So loud noise, making yourself larger, clean up your litter, don't feed coyotes, don't feed wildlife, don't leave food for any other wildlife too, especially in parks. Or if you see a coyote, I'm just interested to know what you guys think. So if you see a coyote, should you run? So please don't run when you see a coyote. It never run when you see a coyote, because it might encourage them to actually like run after you, and encourages that like negative, aggressive encounter. They might think that because they're wild, they might think that you're playing with them. Or they might run after you. So never ever run from a coyote for your own safety. So you do what hazing is the key, like stand your ground, make yourself seem larger, shout, "Go away, coyote," wave your hands above your head. So please, if anyone asks you, never ever run from a coyote.